Yes, the Canada Pension Plan. That is one of the things that we all contribute to, but not everyone is overly enthused about how the plan works. A lot of people say, I've paid into this thing for decades. Why don't I get every penny that I put in? The truth is, that's not quite the way it works. Today in this video, I'm going to break down how the CPP really works, why it does feel unfair at times, and why it's actually built more like an insurance program than a personal investment account. I want to start by zooming out just for a second for a little bit of context. First off, the CPP was introduced back in 1966, and this was during a time when senior poverty was a very serious issue in Canada. The idea here was very simple. Give workers a basic level of income in retirement, funded through mandatory contributions from both employees and employers. And over the years, the plan has evolved. In fact, fairly recently, in 2019, the government introduced what's called the Enhanced CPP. The goal here is to boost retirement income for future retirees by gradually increasing both the contribution rates and the payout benefits. Today's CPP has two parts. The base CPP, that's been around since the beginning, and now the Enhanced CPP, which builds on top of it and is still being phased in. So why is that important? Well, it shows that the system itself isn't static. It adapts based on economic realities and demographic shifts. Certainly it is not perfect, but it's far from being an outdated program. Now, what you pay versus what you get, and this is a real sticking point here. The typical working Canadian contributes 5.95% of their earnings up to a maximum yearly limit, then your employer matches that. So if you're earning the national average, you could be paying over $3,000 a year into CPP just from your paycheck. Now let's say you contribute for 40 years. That is around $120,000 in lifetime contributions. For simplicity, I'm not factoring in changes, increases over the years. Now here's where people get skeptical. If I put in that much, shouldn't I get that much or more back? The answer to that is it depends. If you live a long life, let's say you live into your 90s, you probably will collect way more than you ever paid in. However, if you pass away just a few years into retirement, you might collect only a fraction of what you actually contributed. Rough example, if you retire at 65 and collect the average CPP payment of around $750 a month, that means you're going to get $9,000 a year. If you live 20 years post-retirement, that's $180,000. I'm going to say not bad. But what if you die at 70? And a lot of us do. That's just $45,000 that you will have collected. And this is the risk sharing part of the plan. This is a key part of the plan. It's not about getting your own money back. It's about making sure that someone will always be able to rely on the system, and that person might not be you. It's just like an insurance program. Some people pay premiums for decades, they never use it. Others make a claim early on. So the key here is that the value isn't just in the payout, it's in the security of knowing that it's there for you if you need it. Now, let's talk about fairness. Not everyone lives the same number of years in Canada. For example, statistically, lower income Canadians, they tend to have shorter life expectancies, so they may pay in for decades, but collect less in return. Now, women as a group, on the other hand, they tend to live longer than men on average, but they also are more likely to take time off work for caregiving, or they could face wage gaps, so that lowers their lifetime contributions, and thus it lowers their CPP benefits. So the big question is the system fair? It depends a lot on your perspective. Some argue that the one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in a country with so much income and health disparity. There are others, the flip side, that say CPP is just one piece of a bigger retirement puzzle, and for what it is, it actually does a decent job. And that is one of the biggest challenges with any pooled or insurance-like system. It definitely can feel unfair when some groups are consistently benefiting more than others, even if the structure itself is designed to protect everyone collectively. There are valid questions that policymakers must continue to wrestle with. The next big question is, where the heck does my money go? A lot of people wonder, what happens to my money after it's deducted from my paycheck? Well, this is where we enter the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, the CPPIB. And this is the actual organization that invests all of the money that's collected through the CPP contributions. And we're not talking here about an insignificant amount. The CPPIB currently manages over $700 billion in assets, and that money is invested globally in infrastructure, real estate, public and private equities, bonds, and more. Like any insurance provider, I'm going to call it insurance provider here, the CPP doesn't just hold your money, it invests it to make sure that the pool can meet future claims. Think about their mandate. It is to invest the assets of the CPP fund with a view to achieving a maximum rate of return without undue risk of loss. In other words, it's to grow the fund sustainably so it can continue paying out benefits decades into the future, even as our population ages. Now, you might ask, what if the market crashes? That's a valid question. The CPP IB is actually structured for the long haul. It's not so focused on chasing quarterly profit. It is actually built for decades. So while there always, of course, is a risk in investing, the CPP is designed to weather the storms. According to their latest projections, the plan is now fully sustainable for at least the next 75 years, even under relatively conservative scenarios. So that's a pretty strong vote of confidence, though again, there's nothing that ever is guaranteed. Now, I do want to quickly tackle a few of the most common misconceptions about the CPP. I'll go through these quickly here. Number one, if I die early, my money is gone. Well, that's not entirely true. The program does offer survivor benefits, death benefits, and disability benefits, so your contributions could actually still support your spouse or dependents if something happens to you. Number two, can I opt out of CPP? Well, a lot of people would like to be able to do that, but the answer is no. It is a mandatory program. Number three, I could invest my money better on my own. The answer is quite possibly or certainly maybe, but remember here, the CPP isn't an investment account. It is guaranteed income for life regardless of how the market performs. It is adjusted for inflation, which personal investments aren't always, and this is where we get back to the insurance analogy. You are not paying into it to get rich. You're paying for that financial security in case life doesn't go as planned. So, I want to bring it all home here. The CPP, yes, it is a pooled system. Yes, you definitely might not get back every dollar that you put in. And yes, some people do better from it than others. But at its core, CPP is shared risk. It assumes that some people will live a very long time and others won't. And it smooths out those incomes so that no one feels completely left behind. Is it a perfect system? Not at all. Should it be reviewed and improved? Absolutely, it should be. But the question I need to ask is, should we throw it out entirely because it isn't 100% fair? That's a much tougher question. I'd like to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you think that the CPP is doing its job? Do you think it needs a serious overhaul? As always, thank you so much for watching. If you did find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with someone who still thinks that the CPP is just a personal savings account. As always, appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video.